Hello, my name is Ibrahim Pratt, and today I will be discussing obesity in America and how nutrition and psychology can be used to begin to see a decrease in the prevalence of the issue. I want to go ahead and apologize now for how nasally I sound, but I do have a cold. I just ask that you guys will bear with me. Obesity today is a growing epidemic that is affecting America in many major ways. Obesity is a medical condition in which the amount of body fat is so excessive that it begins to have a negative effect on said person's health. This isn't to be confused with being overweight. Being overweight is having a greater amount of weight than necessary to be considered a healthy individual that may not result in health risks. Generally, a person is obese because their caloric intake exceeds the daily amounts of necessary, while the amount of physical activity per day is not being met. Children need 60 minutes of exercise in a day in order to maintain weight, which can be met by allowing an hour of free play. Adults need 30 minutes of exercise in a day to maintain weight, and in both cases, in order to decrease the weight, they will need to double the amount of physical activity in order to begin the process. So if children need 60 minutes a day in order to maintain their weight, that means they need to play for 2 hours in order to lose weight. It is important to understand the negative effects obesity has on our bodies and how obesity facilitates an increase in disease such as cancer. Heart disease is one of the many diseases that are made possible by having high body fat. Not many people know that 90% of cardiovascular disease is preventable in the broad spectrum of illness that falls between this category. Stroke, myocardial infarction, also known as a heart attack, arrhythmia are all CVDs that can result in fatality. This leading cause in death is not the only disease that is affected by obesity. Type 2 diabetes is a long-term metabolic disorder influenced by high blood sugar, insulin resistance, and lack of insulin. Treatment for this disorder is the same cause of action that could have been taken in order to prevent the disorder, which include frequent exercise and eating properly. Understanding that diseases that are incorporated in this medical condition is important, but we need to understand what other characteristics are entailed. As technology has progressed over time, people have had to exert less physical energy in order to contact people or have fun. Before cellular phones were invented, children were not able to send their friends a quick text message or phone call to find them, but instead they had to physically get up and go knock on their neighbor's door to see if they were able to play. And generally, this free play occurred outside rather than indoors as it does today. With the invention of game consoles and apps, children have endless amount of entertaining distractions at their fingertips. These are all major distractions for someone who needs more physical activity. Streaming videos is a growing trend. Hulu and Netflix have made it extremely easy to binge watch several popular TV programs. The blame for the rising rate of obesity doesn't fall on the brilliant minds that have advanced our technological age, but nevertheless we see the influence that these advances have had on our economy and community. Hence why games consoles such as Wii and apps like Pokemon Go were created in order to eliminate the amount of stationary time spent playing these video games. Being overweight or obese is a major epidemic that threatens the present and future of Americans. Being overweight is defined as having a body mass index of 25 to 29.9 and a BMI of over 30 classifies an adult as being obese. This means that there is 30 more pounds of weight than necessary, which can lead to serious and fatal disease such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and etc. The most recent surveys show that data from 2011 and 2012 show an age-adjusted prevalence of adults aged 20 years old and older. Obesity of 34.9% compared with 22.9% in 1988 to 1994. In order to solve this complex problem, you need to research the epidemiology of obesity and the different factors that would contribute to the decreasing of the prevalence of obesity. That brings about the question, how does America reduce a climbing rate of obesity that has been increasing over the past 2 decades by the use of nutrition and psychology? I've begun to discuss how nutrition can be used in order to show a decrease in the prevalence of obesity by increasing physical activity, of course, and just by allowing our bodies to get the nutrients that we need. A lot of Americans are consuming nutrient-dense foods on a very daily basis. I mean, drinking a Coca-Cola or a Sprite or a Dr. Pepper, whatever soft drink that you like. Those are all calories that your body is consuming that have absolutely no positive effect on your health. They aren't providing you with any vitamin A or vitamin C or vitamin D. They're literally just putting calories into your body. And it takes education and just understanding what other effects are taking away from nutrition. For instance, technology and its improvements have led to more time being spent indoors. Whenever children were younger, for instance, when I was a child, we weren't able to text our friends and find out if they were home. What we did was we went to their house, knocked on the door, and generally you played outside. But nowadays, it's not only nutrition that's affecting obesity, it's also a psychological aspect too. And it doesn't always agree with nutrition. Many people don't understand the psychology that is involved with obesity, because when people consider psychology, they think of like personality disorders, as far as in schizophrenia and things like that. But that's not the only aspect of psychology. Nutrition is obviously an important aspect, but it does contain the psychosocial aspect too. Close and personal relationships begin to become affected negatively when someone is obese. Studies show that obesity is linked to problems in sexual encounters, including lack of enjoyment and desire for sex, avoidance of sex, and difficulty with performance. Overweight children and adolescents are more likely to have overweight friends, and obesity spreads through social networks in adults. Furthermore, an individual's chance of becoming obese increased by 57% if he or she had a friend who became obese, and 37% if his or her spouse became obese. These studies point to effects of environmental and cultural influence on obesity. Not only are relationships that people have in the present being affected, but also possible future relationships too. Obese individuals are less likely to be married, they're less likely to be accepted into college, and they're less likely to have high-paying jobs. An effective way of drawing attention to individuals who are overweight would be to notify families and hope that they take the necessary action to improve their child's health. Pennsylvania Department of Public Health created a mandate that required school nurses to calculate the body mass index for all school-aged children at the start of 2005 to 2006. Once the BMI was calculated, the nurse was required to notice the caregiver to inform that their child is above, below, or at normal body weight. By doing this, it gives the parents an understanding on what's going on, and at the same time, it begins to give the school a way to begin to show a decrease in the obesity, because these parents will be able to have a sort of self-efficacy in knowing that they are contributing to their child's obesity. Although there are some aspects of these two disciplines that can be integrated to solve this complex problem, there are also some conflicts between the two insights. If a consumer has poor nutrition, they are, as mentioned, susceptible to sickness and disease, but not many individuals know that poor nutrition has a negative effect on our brains too. Poor nutrition, such as refined sugars, show a decline in insulin production and cause oxidative stress. Not only will refined sugars affect your physical health, but your mental health too. Mood disorders such as depression are also impacted by these poor health choices. Individuals with depression have a hard time functioning in everyday life and are not concerned with consuming proper nutrients, which creates a cycle many can't seem to get out of. In order to combat these habits and types of issues, they're important to find some common ground between the two disciplines. As learned in our lectures, we must always find continuity in discontinuity. When we're faced with a roadblock, do we stay there stationary or do we find an alternate route? With this problem in these two disciplines, you'll find that a lot. Nutrition won't take you as far as you need to go in order to end this issue. Psychology will not take you as far as you need to go in order to solve this complex problem. But through an interdisciplinary approach, can we begin to integrate different disciplines and finding commonalities between those disciplines and then you synthesize them in order to solve a complex issue. And that's something that we need to keep in mind in all issues and in everyday life. Not only can this be applied to obesity in America, but this can be applied to campus carry. This can be applied to sex trafficking, many different things. And as long as we remember what we've learned through this time in our schooling, I believe we'll be able to face anything that comes into our way or any roadblock that we see. We won't be stationary, but we'll be able to get past it because we will know that one approach isn't always the best approach, and that having an open mind and using many disciplines and integrating them is the best way to solve any complex issue. Thank you for watching.